Hello, and welcome back to the show, Still in Search of a Name, even after the close of the regular season. But I'm Robert Brunson. This is Coach Chad Grier. And, Coach, congratulations on a great regular season. We're headed into the playoffs now. There's a little bit of uncertainty, I think, about who we might play in the playoffs at this point. What can you tell our people?
Unfortunately, not a lot yet. I think we'll know today. Hopefully, we'll know today. We're waiting to hear from the high school league what the outcome of that's going to be, and we could end up remaining the one. We could be the two. We could be a four. We don't know. So whatever it turns out to be, we prepared last night as a staff. We looked at three different potential opponents and just try to prepare our game plan, our practice plans for kind of expected case, but we still know what that is.
Seems like everybody would want to know with some certainty here pretty soon.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people affected. It's not just us, so it's unfortunate, but you can only control what you can control and do the best we can going forward.
Well, looking back over the regular season, which is something we can do today, who stands out to you? Which of your players on offense, and in particular, individual performances across the course of the season that you think are really noteworthy and that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I think the obvious are Keegan and Sean. I mean, I think Keegan has just been consistent, extremely high-end performer. I think he's been overlooked by a lot of the all-star opportunities, which is tragic. I think he's getting due respect from people that know the game and come watch him play. But he's been tremendous. Sean just continues to grow and has had a really great year. But our receiver core as a group has been really good. But I think goes back to what we talked about last spring. Our offense would go as far as our offensive line would take us, and I think they've been exceptional. And I think that's really, to me, the highlight is just what those guys have done. And so many of those guys, get our two tackles, Dylan and Will, both are guys that have been here from the beginning and just truly, in two different ways, have remade their bodies. I mean, Dylan just lost an incredible amount of weight, just has been an incredible competitor and leader. He's a great student. He's worked really hard in the weight room. He had to deal with some injury, overcome an injury, but has just become a really very good player for us. And then Will Armitage on the other side, we've talked about before, just really had to increase his strength and footwork and the whole deal, but to become a two-year starter from where he started as a freshman is just an incredible story too. So the sophomores that support him, and then Mickey at center, we set a really good group up front, and those guys have taken us to about 50 points a game and an undefeated season, and that's kind of what we expected. If they played well, we'd do well.
Switching to the defensive side, just tell us who you think really stood out over the long haul, the course of the season.
I think over the season, our linebacker play has probably been the most improved year over year, and I think those guys have done a really good job. I mean, Carson in the middle, a sophomore, gives us a lot of time, but Nick Moylan was a baseball guy that really was baseball first, and but the way he bought in for his senior year and worked in the offseason, the way he's performed has been tremendous. Blue Sobel, is one of the best athletes in the school, if not the best athlete in the school. And guys like him and Cooperoo plays corner but also plays linebacker. I mean, those guys having to come in and out, but just have given us some depth and have been tough and physical, made plays. I think overall that whole core of guys that continues to play that position well for us has really given us a chance to defend the run and the pass. I think that's probably been the strong suit of what's been different this year. Our D-line has been very good. I mean, we're good up front.
A lot of depth, it seems.
A lot of depth, play a lot of guys, but good size, strength, the physicality. Miles Castine has been, arguably the best player on the line, really on both sides. He's just, people watch him and know he's a game changer. He makes a real difference. So from an individual performance perspective, Miles just makes us go on really, whenever he's in the game, when he's side of the ball. He's really been just a great player. And vocal leader, inspirational leader, work ethic guy. He's had a tremendous season.
As we move into the playoffs, regardless of who you play, what are you telling your guys in terms of how you need to adjust your play versus how you handle the regular season, or is it just one game at a time?
One game at a time. And I think the big thing is taking care of our bodies. And I think we've done a good job of, throughout the off season, trying to build better athletes and keep them in shape and muscle stamina, not just trying to be power lifters or bodybuilders, but really trying to be better athletes. And I think the buy-in in the weight room and the speed training program, you see, I mean, the Timberland game is a good example where in the fourth quarter, I think our guys are pretty fresh. And I think that goes a long way.
It's very clear on film.
To win playoff games, I mean, we expect to have to go deep in the fourth quarter to win. And even the last play of the game, that's our mindset. It's win on the last play of the game. And that comes from being in the best shape possible, and our kids have bought into that, and I think it shows. And I think that also helps prevent injury. And knock on wood, we've been pretty fortunate with avoiding major injuries, and I think it goes back to getting the way the kids train.
And speaking of injuries, so as we move into the playoffs, are there any significant injuries that are of concern to you?
Nothing major right now. I mean, we've had some bumps and bruises, and we've had a lot of illness we've had to deal with. But, I mean, overall, I think we'll be pretty healthy. Jordan Jackson got into a car wreck. It was scary. He's fine, and his brother's fine, but sore, was banged up a little bit. So he missed some practice last week, and hopefully we'll get him back this week. But there's no, injury to him. He just banged up pretty good.
So in our show last week, I neglected to ask you about the JV team and the conclusion of their season. Of course, they won their final game against Timberland with a depleted roster. This speaks well for the future of the program.
Amazing. I mean, JV has had an incredible season again. Played at a high level of competition, played great. Our JV team really is mostly freshmen. I mean, our JV team would be more akin to a B team in a lot of places, but played a JV schedule, beat a 5A, 2 4As. Our coaches, I think one of the things that we do a little different in our program is we have, one program, 2 teams. And so our coaches coach all the kids. And so with the exception of Coach Robbins and Coach Jackson and myself, the rest of our coaching staff coaches the JV team. So they're very familiar with the kids. They're not just blocking dummies during varsity practice. They have their own skill development, their own practice time, their own team time, and Coach Burks has done a great job with them. And what they did at Timberland, kind of thrown into a chaotic situation to organize and manage that as effectively as they did, showed a lot of great leadership and showed a lot of character in our kids, the way they were able to compete and win against a very good opponent.
So, Coach, any wrestling tidbits today? Last week, tragically, there wasn't an opportunity.
Yeah, that was disappointing. 13 years ago today, Sputnik Monroe passed away.
The Russian satellite?
235 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal. He was the original. He was the original Stone Cold. He was Stone Cold before Stone Cold. So, but you said Sputnik. That reminds me. I grew up playing with a kid that his name was Sputnik. I think that's the same.
Sputnik?
Well, I think that's the same as Sputnik now. But I didn't know any better about it. Everybody's Sputnik. But
Sputnik.
He ran like a satellite. He was all over the place.
That's probably the right Russian pronunciation.
But the great story about Sputnik was my dad was the little league coach, and all these kids, and he had to sign up or whatever, and he'd come by himself. And he signed up as Donald. It's Joplin. So we got his name was Joplin, and then the next year, everybody was called Joplin. The next year, what's your first name? Joplin. It's Joplin. But really just Sputnik. It wasn't the third year we found out he had a real first name. It was Donald. So for 2 years it was Sputnik Joplin or Joplin Sputnik, but nobody knew his name was Donald. And I don't know what happened to the guy. He was amazing, a cool kid, but he was really, really good. Sputnik, Sputnik. I guess.
He had a name made for wrestling. Maybe he went into that.
He might have. He could have. He was a great athlete, man. He was a cool kid.
So, Coach, back to the playoffs just for a minute. The current bracket that everybody has seen has OCA at a number 1 seed playing Latta at home. Mm-hmm. And you said there were a couple other options of how that could play out. Can you share what those are, or is that just too speculative?
I think it's pretty speculative, but I think it looks like no matter what, we would host a game Friday night, and we'd play at the Citadel, 7:30, which is a great opportunity and a great venue. We've spoken to Latta coach. We exchanged film with them under the assumption that would happen, and because we had no other information to go on, and they won't everybody sit around. I think everybody kind of exchanged film. I talked to Timberland's coach Saturday, had a great conversation with Art, and they've exchanged a Whale Branch. So if we flipped with Timberland, we'd play Whale Branch, and so we'd have to, today obviously pivot very quickly to exchange different film.
And would that be a home or away?
It would still be home. I think we're home regardless. I think even as I have to look again at the 4 seed, but I'm pretty sure we get a home game regardless. So
Andrews was down there.
Take that back. We'd go to Andrews, I would think.
Yeah.
If we go to the 4 seed, I don't think
I
that's
think that's
happen,
right.
But I don't know that. Just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll be prepared either way.
I imagine not only are the Oceanside fans on pins and needles, but if I was at Latta or Whale Branch or Andrews or Timberland, any of these other schools that is going to be affected, I would certainly be anxious to get an answer. But looking farther into the playoffs, because you do know you're going to be in the playoffs, right? So looking down the road, Barnwell, Abbeville, Southside Christian, are those the teams to beat? Saluda?
Well, in the upstate, I think Abbeville and Southside are, have kind of distinguished themselves even historically, but certainly this year as well as two of the top teams. I think Gray's going to cause people some problems. I think that what they do offensively is really hard to stop. Really just a lot of great athletes. I mean, the quarterback is very good, the receivers, the running back's excellent, good up front. I mean, that's a dynamic offense. They've scored points on everybody. I think they're going to be a tough out for anybody. And then down here, I think Barnwell obviously has been very successful, and people think very highly of. Bamberg, that whole region, in fact, Barnwell, Bamberg.
Of course, Barnwell just beat Bamberg Friday night.
In a close game, yeah. But if that region, you look at those two plus Woodland, I think is very good, and Whale Branch. I mean, all four in the same region. That's a tough region. So the 4 seed out of that region, a 3 seed out of that region. I mean, you're still talking about really good football team. Saw a little bit of Andrews. I think they're pretty good. I think that region's got a lot of athletes. Man, just a lot of speed and size. Mullins look good. I mean, just a lot of teams that I think it's going to be fun. I think there's a lot of teams that they're going to be good, be fun to go play and prepare for and have good games with.
Well, I wish you well, and hopefully we'll know something here very soon, and we will be moving on into the playoffs and hopefully have another show. But one other question: if we remain a 1 seed and we have home field, will they all be at the Citadel?
We know the first one will be, and then the second one will be as a maybe based on availability, and then the third one, if we were to get the third one, that would be at the Citadel. So we're up in the air for the second date. Should we have one? We're trying to work something out.
If the Citadel's not available, is it Park West or are there other venues?
Trying to see if Charleston Southern could accommodate us, but I would say the fallback would be Park West, and then frankly that may not work because of seating requirements. And if it's one of those, if it's a Bamberg or Barnwell, somebody travels really well, might be tough to do it at Park West. So I don't know, one step at a time. But we're something where it's on the extensive to-do list. Monday seems to just always get longer and longer anyway. But there's always plenty to do around here.
Well, I'm going to get out of your hair so you can get to that to-do list, but for the grandparents and aunts and uncles and people who are out of town and can't get to these games, we're going to live feed for sure. If it's at the Citadel, it should be a really high-quality video because we can get a strong internet signal there. So be sure and check us out. We'll send the link around and look forward to
Why don't
Friday
you ever
night.
do this show in the voice shoes on Friday nights?
What's different about my voice tonight?
Really?
Friday night.
Come on, man.
You have to tune in to find out.
Come on. I think you got to give us a taste of it.
It's on to the playoffs for the Oceanside Land Sharks.
That's what I'm talking about.
See you next week.
Awesome.